Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to another one of my videos where I give you the opportunity to test your comic book grading skills up against actual results from CGC. In this box, we have 4 or 5 books that I submitted on behalf of my brother-in-law. Now, the reason I don't know if it's 4 or 5 books is because it was a 5-book submission, but one of the books is supposed to get a special label. And typically when that happens, CGC will send back the special label books separately. They must go through a separate processing or something. So what I expected was for there to be a 4-book submission and a 1-book submission. But certain bits of information that I have lead me to believe that it's possible all 5 books are in here, but we'll find out about that in just a moment. Let's talk about what we are going to do in this video. I started this video series because I wanted to see videos on YouTube that would help teach me how to grade and how to make sure that when I'm assessing a book that my assessment will match the results that I get from CGC, and I did not see those videos, so I decided to make them myself. So what we do in these videos is first, we look at video that I made of these books when they were raw, right before I sent them off to CGC. We will assess the books in these videos for any damage, any flaws, anything that might impact the grade negatively. Then I share with you my best guess as to what I think the grade should be, and then you in your mind should also assign a grade for yourself of what you think the grade should be. Then, once we've assessed all the books in the raw, we unbox this bad boy right here and we take a look at the results. We see what actually the grades are that they got from CGC. And if we hit the nail on the head, awesome. We're doing a really great job with grading our comic books. But if we're a little bit or sometimes a lot off, it gives us an opportunity to go back to those videos, when the raw videos, and reassess and see if we can't figure out what we might have missed that might have led CGC to the grade that that the books got. Now, I will, one disclaimer, the videos that I do of the books when they're raw, it's not comprehensive. It's not the best way to grade, but for the purposes of these videos, it's the best I have to offer. Okay, so that is everything I wanted to do to set up this video. Let's go ahead right now and take a look at these books when they were raw. All right, first up we have The Department of Truth, issue number 1. This is the A cover. Those of you who have watched my videos know how much I love this book. So a little bit of a spoiler alert. I think this book is a 9.8. So what we should do here is we should look and see if we can find any flaws whatsoever. Anything that might make it not a 9.8. So far, I don't see anything at all. So let me tell you a little bit about what I like to do when I assess books. I like to take them to a place with good lighting. Ideally, you have a mixture of, inside lights and maybe some sunlight. Most importantly, I like to make sure that I have some overhead light. Some light that's shining directly down onto the book. What it does is it creates hot spots, and those hot spots interact with flaws such as pinches, creases, folds, all of these type of things, and really show you when there's not a smooth, even surface on the book. This is especially important when it comes to finding creases. It is my opinion that light creases are the number one reason that people don't get the grade they were expecting. There were creases that they just didn't see. Now, as I say all of this book tends to be a bad example of that because I really don't see the hot spot that I usually create. Sorry about that. You'll see it in other videos. But this book looks great to me. I didn't see any flaws the whole time. I still think it's a 9.8. Next up, we have Strange Academy, issue number 1. This is a Comic Mint C special edition, I believe. I'll correct that if it's not. But this book, once again, spoiler alert, I think is a 9.8. So let's try to find any flaws. Now, you might be down there in the corner. You see the way that the fold has torn the book a little bit, and you'll see it all the way along the spine here. It's not severe, and I've definitely seen examples of this where it is quite severe. But there you see little fraying, let's call it, along the fold. Honestly, I see that often with a lot of different books, and it is a manufacturing defect and should not impact the grade negatively in a significant way. That being said, if that shredding, if that tearing was really, really bad, yes, I might expect it to hurt the grade. But in this instance, I think it is just a normal result of how this particular book was manufactured. Other than that, I continue to see no problems. Looks really, really good to me. This is a really nice book. Strange Academy was one of those books that it came out, and when it was new, I was like, yeah, I'm not so interested, and I decided to take a pass on this book. I really regret that because this was one of the biggest hits of the year it came out. But yeah, this book looks perfect to me. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to call it a 9.8. Next up, we have Star Wars Jedi Mace Windu. This is not a numbered comic book. It's a one-shot. So similar to the first two books, I gave this book a 9.8. Now, that corner is possibly more damaged than a 9.8 can be. And it's hard for me to know for sure because I've seen a lot of damaged corners. It's hard to pick up a comic book off the shelf these days on the first day of its release and not see corners that are damaged at least as bad as that. So I don't know if that corner is going to be problematic enough to take this book out of a 9.8, but we'll just have to see about that. I still think that this book could possibly be a 9.8 because the rest of this book looks really, really good. Now, something I've said before, which is a little bit difficult to quantify, but is a fact, that 9.8s can have flaws, like that corner you saw. So once again, this will be an educational book for me to decide whether or not that corner right there is damaged enough to take it out of the 9.8 category. Because in all other ways, this book looks fully like it should be in the 9.8 category. So I'm going to be optimistic, and I'm going to go ahead and assign this book the grade of a 9.8 and really keep my fingers crossed. Finally, we have Tales of the Teen Titans issue number 44. Now you'll see right away, this book is not a 9.8. It absolutely has color-breaking spine ticks in it. And you can see a little bit of what I was talking about before, now that we're looking with books with flaws, is how light interacts with folds and stuff like that. And it helps you see some of the more difficult ones. But this one has lots of problems that you don't need special light to see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe a little one there. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. A nice one there. That's a nice one right by that staple. Woo-wee. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. This has a lot of color-breaking spine ticks. And this is a book with its dark cover that doesn't hide those at all. So the grader is going to see all of those, and all of those are going to hurt the book. The question is, how much? How much is it going to hurt the book? And that's what we're all here to learn today. But I definitely think that it's definitely not a 9.8, definitely not a 9.6, definitely not a 9.4, and definitely not a 9.2, I'll say. But let's see how the back is. Let's see if there's anything here that's really going to sink this book even further. And at first glance here, maybe there's a little bit of a flaw there in the black there. I'm sure you all saw that. But the rest of this book looks really, really good on the back. Not too shabby. And yes, the color breaking spine ticks that we saw on the front do have their twin, so to speak, on the back there, but they don't look as severe as they do on the front, partially because it's a white border there as opposed to the black border on the front. But that's a good looking book other than that spine, so I'm going to go with an 8.5 on this one. All right, so now you have seen the books in this box when they were raw. You have assessed them for any flaws, any damage, and now you have your best guess as to what you think the grade should be. Now it's time to find out what actual grades they got from CGC. So let me get my handy dandy little X-Acto knife here and my notes about the grades. Now, I was actually, in preparation for this video, looking through my paperwork, and I saw that I had 2 different notes for grades for this submission. I think what happened is that I graded them once, I misplaced that piece of paper, and before I sent it out to CGC, the books, I graded them again. So I have 2 different things, and in most cases, I was actually pretty close. You know, I gave myself I assigned the same grades twice, and in some cases, I was a little bit different, sometimes by 2 grade points. So it just goes to show that sometimes your mood and where your head's at any given moment can impact your impression on the grade. All right, so one thing I like to do is I like to always show off how CGC packed this. They did a good job. They used to do 5 books with just 1 piece of bubble wrap. They have upped that to 2 pieces. There's still a little bit of extra wiggle room in there, which I don't like to see with shipments from CGC. I want them packed pretty tight and not moving around at all. But that being said, it seems like everything here is okay. Now, I don't want to see the grades yet. I want to do that as part of the reveal. So let me make sure I can find where the back. So this is the fronts of the books. When I flip it over, these should be the backs of the books. Yes. Okay, great. I want to make sure I don't see any naughty bits. Okay, wonderful. Okay, great. So this first book is a book that is very near and dear to me. Those of you who watch my videos know I love this writer very, very much and this title very, very much. And that book is The Department of Truth, issue number 1. Now, this is a book that on both instances of grading this book, I gave it a 9.8. So let's see, did I assess this book correctly? Let me show you first. Great. And now that you've seen that, let me show myself. Please be a 9.8. Great. Awesome. Awesome. Very, very glad. I'm especially invested in making sure that these grades are correct because generally speaking, if I'm wrong for myself, that's one thing. But when I'm wrong for somebody else's books, when I'm like, oh, this is a 9.8 book, you should submit it. And then they get like a 9.4. I'm like, ooh, I just wasted your money. But that's why we all need practice for ourselves so that we can assess for ourselves. But this is great. This is a great book to have a 9.8. The value of that book has dropped a lot. So it goes, all these books were pressed at CCS, by the way. So that is something to keep in mind when you saw the books raw. Probably I should have mentioned that before, that they were pressed at CCS. But let's go ahead. So that's with the cost of pressing and grading, plus he got the book for cover price. He's still in the profit. He's still in a positive of value. But anyways, let's move on now to a really nice book. This is Strange Academy, issue number 1. This is the Comic Mint Edition C. That's a really cool one. So I have this now. I put, there were a lot of qualifiers I noticed in these notes. I was hedging my bets a lot. I 2 times put this as a 9.8, but then I put possible 9.6. But I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a 9.8. Let's hope it is. That's what I'm calling it. Let's show you what it got. Now, did you get it right? Or did I get it right? Or did we both get it wrong? Are we all? 9.8. Awesome. really, 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 really great. I've said this in other videos. If you are expecting a 9.8 and you don't get a 9.8, that's tough. That is a tough pill to swallow. But I'm so glad to see that even though some little bit part of me thought that it might come back a 9.6, I'm glad to see that it got the 9.8. Okay, what's next? Yes. Okay, let me take this out of there. Let me show this to you. The next we have Star Wars Jedi Mace Windu. This is, I'll read what this is a first appearance in here. I think it's a first appearance of Ventress, I think, if I remember correctly, but I'll confirm that in just a moment. Now, I also think that this book was a 9.8. That's my official grade guess on it. But to be honest, at one point, basically it looks like in my first assessment, I thought it might be a 9.6. So let's hope that I was more accurate in my second assessment than my first. Let's show you the grade. And now let's have me take a look at the grade myself. 9.6. Okay, so that's interesting to me because once again, like I said, in my first assessment of it, I put 9.6, and in my second assessment of it, I put a 9.8. So there's probably a flaw in there somewhere that takes it out of the 9.8 range. Obviously, there was, because it got the 9.6. So if I didn't already flag that in the video that I showed you of this book when it was raw, the potential little damage that might have led it to the 9.6, I would recommend going back in this video to this book when it's raw and seeing if you can't find the flaw that put it in a 9.6. And if there's grader's notes for this, I'll throw it up on the screen so that you can see why they said it wasn't a 9.8. Okay, we have only one more book. So it does look like you already know this because you saw the part of this video where these books were shown to you in the raw. Looks to me like the book with the special label will be shipped back separately, which matches my expectations. So the last book we'll be looking at today is Tales of the Teen Titans, issue number 44. Oh, I was going to say this, I was going to double check the label on this, which is that it is first appearance of Ventress. Yes. Okay, cool. All right, this is the first appearance in my hand, this Teen Titans 44. This is the first appearance of Nightwing, which is a really nice book and a book that I have as well. Now this one I had a lot of variation, in my initial assessment. In my first assessment, I thought it was an 8.0. But then in my follow-up assessment, I thought it was an 8.5, could be a 9.0. So I said, oh, it's 8.0, 8.5, or 9.0, which is too big of a range. So I'm going with my official last assessment, which is 8.5. So let's go ahead and show you the grade. Remember, think of your grade as well. Let's show you what it got. And now let's see, did it get the 8.5 that I expected? 9.0. Okay, great. So my second assessment of 8.5 could be 9.0 was accurate, but I was inaccurate in that it got the 9.0 rather than the 8.5. And for those of you who have watched my videos, that's a common quote-unquote mistake that I make. I am frequently one grade increment below what CGC gave it. And I sometimes think about adjusting my grading to be like, well, I think it's an 8.5, so I'm gonna call it a 9.0 so that I can match CGC. But I would always rather slightly overgrade and get a grade higher than I expected than to undergrade and get a grade lower than I expected. So I'm fully okay with being one grade increment off, especially when it's one grade increment below the actual result from CGC. But there you have it. Those are the 4 books that we are looking today. Not so bad. I feel pretty good about how I did with grading. Let me know down in the comments how you did with your grading. Did you hit everyone perfectly? Were you off on some and got some right? If you were off, how far were you off? And once again, I recommend that if you were far off, now that you know what the actual grades from CGC are, go back to the section of this video when the books were raw and reassess and think, okay, now I know that a book with these flaws get this grade. And the more and more that we do this, the more and more that I've done it, the better and better I get at it. And that's why we are here today. All right, if you like this video, likes are appreciated by me. If you haven't already subscribed, I invite you to do so. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.